All right, and shalom, shalom. So I want to welcome everybody to King James Bible University. Then I'm Micah, evangelist and teacher. And today, then we're going to be doing a short teaching, and I'm not going to be before you long. And hopefully, then all of y'all's day, then it went good, just like mine. So right up here, then I have then a text, and it's a personality description, and I'm going to read it, and we'll pick up from there. So you want other people to know you and like you. You tend to be critical of yourself and often doubt whether you have made the right decision or done the right thing. You have a great deal of potential which you have not always used to your advantage. While you have some flaws, you are constantly trying to improve. Sometimes you can be very sociable and extroverted, while at other times you are introverted and prefer to be alone. You prefer some change and variety and don't like to feel limited, but you also seek security in life. You consider yourself an independent thinker and do not accept other statements without satisfactory proof. You have found it unwise to be too honest in revealing yourself to others. So what I just read openly in front of you all is an example of a personality description, the same type that are told by tarot card readers, fortune tellers, and astrologers. So based on what was just read, and I'm pretty sure some of you think that it describes your character well, and some of you may feel the description is accurate. And if that's the case, then there's no worries. No need to feel bad, because that's what these predictions and these divinations like this one right here, that's what they're designed to do. So in this lesson, we are going to discuss horoscopes and astrology and the psychological effects at hand which can deceive a person into believing a vague prediction such as this one right here and believing that it's the real deal. So the reason why most of us can relate to these descriptions is because they themselves are intentionally written vague, just vague enough to match anyone because we all have these traits to a varying degree. So these statements are also written in a manner where the descriptions are worded to be personalized and positive towards the reader because we generally tend to validate these sorts of ideas over negative, less personal ones that are broadly addressed to everybody else. So these factors, they create a cognitive bias, which is a distortion of reality because we're interpreting information based on our own beliefs and our own opinions, which then that runs us to our first precept, and which is going to be Proverbs chapter 3 and verse 5 and 6. It says, "Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths." So in other words, then we are not looking towards the stars, not looking at horoscopes or looking at something else. So from here, and we will hit Deuteronomy, and we'll go to chapter 4 and verse 15 all the way down to 20. "Take you therefore good heed unto yourselves, for you saw no manner of similitude on the day that the Lord spoke unto you in Horeb out of the midst of the fire. Lest ye corrupt yourselves and make you a graven image, the similitude of any figure, the likeness of male or female, the likeness of any beast that is on the earth, the likeness of any winged fowl that flieth in the air, the likeness of anything that creepeth on the ground, the likeness of any fish that is in the waters beneath the earth. And lest thou lift up thine eyes unto heaven, and when thou seest the sun and the moon and the stars, all the host of heaven, shouldest be driven to worship them and serve them, which the Lord thy God has divided unto all nations under the whole heaven. But the Lord has taken you and brought you forth out of the iron furnace, out of Egypt," which that's the house of bondage, the house of confusion, to be unto him a people of inheritance as you are this day. So what that's telling us, in other words, is we're not to be looking towards the stars for guidance or for comfort or a relatability of personality traits or for matchmaking and so on and so forth. Then it gets deeper into this right here on the right side where we are in Deuteronomy chapter 18, and we'll look at verses 10 through 12, 14 through 15, and then 18. There shall not be found among you any one that maketh his son or his daughter to pass through the fire. So making them pass through the fire to Moloch, which is the ruler of flesh. Or that uses divination, or an observer of times, or an enchanter, or a witch, or a charmer, or a consulter with familiar spirits, or a wizard, or a necromancer. For all that do these things are an abomination unto the Lord, and because of these abominations the Lord thy God doeth drive them out from before thee. Got 14 and 15. For these nations which thou shalt possess hearkened unto observers of times and unto diviners. But as for thee, the Lord thy God has not suffered thee so to do. The Lord thy God will raise up unto thee a prophet from the midst of thee, of thy brethren, like unto me, and unto him you shall hearken. 18. So I will raise them up a prophet from among their brethren, like unto thee, and will put my words in his mouth, and he shall speak unto them all that I shall command him. So just looking back over these verses, then these people that are not to be found among us, and these are men that extol counsel of themselves. So in this case, the astrologers are the deceit of their own hearts, because God did not make those stars to be worshipped. So one thing that now I'm going to say is, and we have to remember, and this has been repeated quite a few times, but it's going to be repeated again in this lesson. This Bible, then it's a law book, then it's a history book, then it's a commentary, it's a dictionary, and it's a book of prophecy of the times to come, all wrapped within itself. And I'm going to get ready to show you something, and like a working of this right at hand. So we're going to hit 2nd Esdras, and we're going to go to chapter 14, and we'll look at verses 4 and 5. And actually, then we'll just extend from 1 all the way down to 5, then that'll be better. And it came to pass upon the 3rd day, I sat under an oak, and behold, there came a voice out of a bush over against me, and said, Esdras, Esdras. And I said, Here I am, Lord. And I stood up upon my feet. Then said he unto me, In the bush I did manifestly reveal myself unto Moses, and talked with him when my people served in Egypt. So then they were serving in the house of bondage and confusion. And I sent him and led my people out of Egypt, and brought him up to the mount of where I held him by a long season, and told him many wondrous things, and showed him the secrets of the times and the end, and commanded him, saying, So these words shalt thou declare, and these shalt thou hide. So just right here, then, which we're going back to verse 5 just to focus on that, then Moses, and he was told many wondrous things, and he was showed secrets of the times, which we're going to take this time right here on the right side, and we'll look at a prophecy. Since, we like to blindly look at the stars and turn to astrologers for blind divinations, now let's look at the Bible, then, which stands apart from these men that extol the counsels of themselves. So let's look at a real prophecy that's coming straight out of this book. So we're in Deuteronomy 31, and we'll look at verses 16 and 17. And this is a real prophecy that was predicted during an earlier time, and here we are today. And the Lord said unto Moses, Behold, so that's remember, thou shalt sleep with thy fathers, and this people will rise up. So that was the people during that time, and that's us today, because and we're no better than our forefathers. And this people will rise up and go a-whoring after the gods of the strangers of the land, whether they go to be among them, and will forsake me, and break my covenant which I have made with them. Then my anger shall be kindled against them in that day, and I will forsake them, and I will hide my face from them, and they shall be devoured, and many evils and troubles shall befall them. So then that's going to encounter us, which it has today. Then there's no need to even start getting into specifics and details. Then we all know this very well through experience. So that they will say in that day, are not these evils come upon us, because our God is not among us? Then that's prophecy. Now let's look at a commentary. So then we're going to go to Baruch, and we'll look at chapter 3, and we'll go to verse 8 down to 14. So then we're getting some scripture that speaks on what this prediction just said was going to happen to us. Behold, so remember, we are yet this day in our captivity. Then this is where we are. Then wherever you are right now listening to this message as it's being brought forth, then you are in the land of your captivity. Then we were taken out of Jerusalem. Behold, so we are yet this day in our captivity, where thou hast scattered us for a reproach and a curse, and to be subject to payments according to all the iniquities of our fathers, which departed from the Lord our God. So then we are paying a sin debt. Hear, Israel, the commandments of life. Give ear to understand wisdom. So how happened it, Israel, that thou art in thine enemy's land, that thou art waxing old in a strange country, that thou art defiled with the dead? So then we're in our enemy's land, and this is what this is asking us, that thou art counted with them that go down into the grave. Thou hast forsaken the fountain of wisdom, so the source of wisdom, in which that's the Spirit of our God, and not anything else. For if thou hadst walked in the way of God, thou shouldst have dwelt in peace forever. Then we be where we're supposed to. Learn where is wisdom, where is strength, and where is understanding, that thou mayest know also where is length of days and life, and where is the light of the eyes and peace. Then what we ought to do is to learn where is wisdom, and where is strength, and where is understanding. But then we ran those precepts just to show you then a real prophecy. Then this is not one that's coming from a blind divination from these men that extol counsels of themselves, and this is right out of the Bible. And we have the commentary right there in Baruch. Then we are in the land of our captivity, subject to payments of reproach and a curse. Deuteronomy 31:16, and it said that these evils were going to befall us in troubles. And here we are. So just to get back on this astrology and these horoscopes, then we're going to head over to 1 Timothy, and we'll go to chapter 6, verse 20 and 21. So, O Timothy, which you addressed this also to yourself, keep that which is committed to thy trust, avoiding profane and vain babblings and oppositions of science falsely so called, which that includes astrology, then that includes astronomy as well, and it includes these horoscopes and all of these signs that we create using the constellation of stars. Then that is in opposition of what the truth is. So then if you're holding to that side, you know where you stand with the Most High, because then we can't serve two masters, and you're going to hold the one and despise the other one. So, O Timothy, so keep that which is committed to thy trust, avoiding profane and vain babblings, and oppositions of science falsely so called, which some professing have erred concerning the faith. Grace be with thee. So, amen. So, then it's saying that it's true. From here, then we'll hit Jeremiah. And we'll go to chapter 10, and we'll look at verse 1 through 4. So, hear ye the word which the Lord speaketh unto you, O house of Israel. Thus saith the Lord, so learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven. For the heathen are dismayed at them, for the customs of the people are vain. And that is something of very important focus in these precepts right here, is that the customs of the people, then they're vain. So then this is not profitable, then this is an error, then it's in falsehood. So we'll highlight everything else back. For one cutteth a tree out of the forest, the work of the hands of the workmen with the axe. They deck it with silver and with gold, and they fasten it with nails and with hammers, that it move not. And just to reiterate what was in the first part of verse 3, it says the customs of the people are vain. So let's think about this. Like these trees, they were made to give O2. Then that's not possible. Then once you've taken the axe to the tree and you've cut it down, then the only thing you have now then is a dead tree that's going to start withering away, because then you've cut it down. Then you've cut it from its roots. But then we like to deck these things up, because then we're honoring then a winter solstice festival then that was kept in times past by the customs and traditions of other people. So during that time, then they would take these trees, which they would take evergreens, and they put their hope and they trust into this tree that there was hope on the other side of these brutal winters of another summertime coming afterwards. So then you deck this tree up, and then you start to present offerings to it in the same way that we should be presenting offerings to the Creator. And this is what we do then with these evergreens. Then we set our hopes and our affections into this tree that we'll make it through the winter and see another summer. So we're worshiping this tree, which then spiritually that represents a man. And we're representing a dead thing at that too, because the tree, then you cut it right from the ground. Another thing about this tree is that then it's a similitude of a man's ability to increase in wisdom. So just with the tree, then that's with, of course, good tillage, with light and with water, then we are able to increase in wisdom just by gathering our daily omer. Then the Creator, then he said, then he was going to rain bread down daily, and we are to gather at a certain rate, so that we can increase in wisdom long as then we're gathering our daily omer. That's one thing about the tree. So now then let's look at these stars, because then we've turned to them for guidance and for comfort and to learn about our personality traits and for matchmaking purposes. And that's not why stars and they're there. So we'll go to Genesis, and we'll look at chapter 1, and we will look at verse 17. And God set them in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth. And that's why they're there. From here, then we'll expound upon this once we get to Baruch. Then we'll look at chapter 3, and we'll go to verse 34. The stars shined in their watches and rejoiced. So when he called them, they say, Here we be. And so with cheerfulness they showed light unto him that made them. And then this is the same thing with us. So it's a similitude. In the same way with these stars, then they shine in the skies. Then even when it's dark and it's black out, then they still shine and they give light. Then this is how then we are to be, even in the land of our captivities, and even in bondage and confusion. Then while the rest of the world and they're walking according to the course of this world, then we're still supposed to be shining, giving off light, then which is coming from that word, then that spirit, then that's supposed to be sown within us. So let's look at some precepts for this. So then we'll go to Daniel and we'll go to chapter 12 and verse 2, left side. And on the right side, then we will hit 2nd Esdras and we'll go to chapter 7 and we'll look at verse 55. Actually, then it's Daniel chapter 12 and verse 3. And they that be wise shall shine as the brightness of the firmament. So then being compared to the lights that's in the sky, then that's how then we're going to shine through that wisdom. We have 2nd Esdras 7 and 55. And that the faces of them which have used abstinence, so then we're abstaining from drunkenness and from darkness and from fleshly lust that war against the soul. And that the faces of them which have used abstinence shall shine above the stars, whereas our faces shall be blacker than darkness. So then we have that contrast there. Then those that be wise, then that's how then your knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, then it's going to shine. Then you're going to give light. And the people that don't have that wisdom, that word sown in them, then their knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, then it's going to be blacker than darkness. And if you want the outward similitude, then it's the same way with our skin color. And this is why then our skin color, then it's the way that it is, because then we're being shown that we don't know who we are, then we don't have that knowledge, because then we don't take the time out to study and meditate. Then we don't take the times out like to search these precepts diligently and to do our studies. But instead, then we look at the skin color and we just call it like we're melanin, and we worship and praise and give honor to like this melanin. And this is what we do. So let's look at something to qualify in that last statement that I made. So we're going to hit Lamentations chapter 5, and we'll go to verse 10 on the left side. And on the right side, then we will look at Amos, and we'll look at chapter 8 and verse 11. So our skin was black like an oven because of the terrible famine. And we're going to Amos 8 and 11 to explain that famine. So behold, the days come, saith the Lord God, that I will send a famine in the land, not a famine of bread, nor a thirst for water, but of hearing the words of the Lord. And they shall wander from sea to sea, and from the north even to the east. They shall run to and fro to seek the word of the Lord, and shall not find it. And this is what he's talking about when he's saying over here in Lamentations 5 and 10, that our skin was black like an oven because of the terrible famine, and we don't have knowledge of who we are. Then we don't have the knowledge that we are supposed to possess. And this is why then our skin is the color that it is. So in closing, then we're going to hit Sarak, and we'll look at chapter 6, and we'll go to verse 5 through 8. It says, sweet language will multiply friends, and a fair speaking tongue will increase kind greetings. So be in peace with many, nevertheless have but one counselor of 1,000. If thou wouldest get a friend, so prove him first, and be not hasty to credit him. For some man is a friend for his own occasion, and will not abide in the day of thy trouble. So then we're closing with this precept to leave us then with something to always have in remembrance. So, and it's telling us, and when we get a friend, then we are supposed to prove him first and be not hasty to credit him. Then it's with these horoscopes. Then before you join into it and the astrologers that write and put these things together, then you have to prove it. Then we've proved these horoscopes and these astrologers and these divinations then with this book, this word. And we know that just based on what we've seen in 1 Timothy chapter 6 and verse 20 and 21, and what we've seen in Deuteronomy chapter 4 verse 15 all the way down to 20, what we've seen even in Deuteronomy chapter 18, that these sorts of things and the men that do these things, and they are an abomination unto the Creator. And it's because they're extolling counsel of themselves, then they're not speaking things aright, and they're not speaking the words of the Lord of God, the Lord God of Israel faithfully. But then they have these itchy, tickling type of doctrines, and they also have these sorts of doctrines that are personalized and ones that are pretty positive, and they give you that feel-good feeling. So then it's that sort of language then that will draw you towards it instead of hearkening to what the truth is. So, and if you have any sort of questions or any comments or concerns about any of the precepts, please leave it in the comment section below. Then I'll get to it at my earliest convenience. Then this is Micah, evangelist and teacher. And until next time, peace.